and our athletes, and like the rest of the world, we're still hopeful for a Japan Olympic Games later this year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it must have excited all solutions recently when the news broke that our own First National Bank had led a group of indigenous banks in the Eastern Caribbean in purchasing the operations of the Royal Bank of Canada in the sub-region. This announcement came weeks after CIBC announced it had reached an agreement on the purchase of a portion of its shares in the Caribbean entity, First Caribbean International Bank. Mr. Speaker, what made the Royal Bank decision so fascinating was the fact that our indigenous bank, First National Bank, had a lead role in these negotiations. This we consider a tremendous achievement for our St. Lucian Bank, which has been around for over 80 years. It speaks to the maturity that First National has attained and the prominence that it now commands in the region's banking sector. As a government, Mr. Speaker, we're extremely proud of First National's role in these discussions and the successful outcome that has been achieved. The banking sector in the Caribbean has undergone tremendous changes in the ownership in recent times, and is encouraging to see that indigenous banks are moving in to fill the void created by the departure of others. We've also watched First National Bank grow and take its place as a leading commercial bank in St. Lucia. This bank has its genesis in the hard social and economic times which St. Lucia and other Caribbean countries faced in the 1930s. It stands today as a tribute to the vision of the sense of nationalism of our outstanding nationals of our country who started what was known as the St. Lucia Cooperative Bank, as the penny bank, at the time when the working class of St. Lucia badly needed a hand up and to guarantee survival. The government is proud of the evolution of First National Bank, and as an industry leader, especially at a time when we continue to celebrate our independence. And we also acknowledge the international awards that First National Bank have attained in the last couple of months. So, again, an outstanding company that we all should give recognition to. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would like to invoke in the Standing Orders 83. 1. Strangers may be admitted to debates in the House under such rules as the Speaker may, from time to time, make for that purpose. And I seek your permission, Mr. Speaker, and the permission of the House, in order to allow Senator Mary Isaac, who is the Minister of Health, to give a very important report on the status of corona in St. Lucia.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 83.1 be invoked to allow the Minister of Health to address this House. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Minister, you are invited.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to update this honorable House of our preparations, what we have done, and what we are currently doing, and what we are continuing to do to prepare in case we have any case of coronavirus in our country. Good morning, students, teachers, media, guests of this honorable House, staff of the Parliament, fellow parliamentarians, Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. On December 31st, 2019, Chinese authorities led an epidemiological investigation to determine the etiology of reported cases of pneumonia in Wuhan City, Hubei province of China. This led to the discovery of a new strain of coronavirus diseases, COVID-19. COVID-19 is a coronavirus characterized with fever, cough, and chills. About 80 to 81% of cases are mild, 14% severe, and 4% critical. The fatality rate ranges from 2.1% to 2.9%. The majority of cases which complicate have comorbid conditions, which include renal disease, heart failure, lung disease, and cancer. This has since resulted in the World Health Organization Director General, under the International Health Regulations of 2005, regarding the outbreak of novel COVID-19 in the People's Republic of China as public health emergency of international concern on Thursday, January 30th, 2020. As of March 8th, 2020, there has been a total of 105,586 confirmed cases globally. A total of 24,727 cases has been confirmed outside of China in 101 countries all over the world. This has resulted in 3,584 deaths to date, 3,100 in China, and 484 outside of China. We have had no cases of coronavirus in the region. Of course, we have to knock on wood for that. There has been confirmation, Mr. President, of COVID-19 cases in several countries of the Caribbean, including the Dominican Republic, we have had no cases of coronavirus in the OECS. However, in the wider Caribbean, we've had one in Dominican Republic, 2 in St. Martin, 1 in St. Barth. 5 cases were confirmed in French Guiana, 20 minutes away at the border crossing with Suriname, and most recently, we have heard of 2 cases in Martinique. WHO advised all countries to ensure preparation for containment as they expect further international exportation of cases. Due to the increasing spread of the virus, the risk to our region has been escalated from low, then to medium, and now to high. As such, the Department of Health and Wellness urgently commenced preparations to sensitize key stakeholders and the public and ensure early detection and efficient management of COVID-19 in St. Lucia. In an effort to reduce morbidity and mortality due to COVID-19, surveillance systems are being strengthened and processes to facilitate early identification and effective management of cases in St. Lucia are being put in place. In an effort to reduce importation of cases, travel restrictions have been placed on persons who visited mainland China in the past 14 days from Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. These restrictions were extended on February 26, 2020 to include Hong Kong, Republic of Korea, Japan, Italy, and Singapore. Non-essential travel to these areas have been discouraged. The Department of Health and Wellness receives regional support to guide preparedness plans. We are also in regular consultations with PAHO, WHO, Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and CDC, including regular reviews of the regional and international guidelines. CARICOM has been facilitating forums to discuss urgent concerns among heads of state. The chief medical officers, national epidemiologists, laboratory directors, and other healthcare workers attend regular virtual meetings. On a local level, the National Health Security Committee, chaired by the Cabinet Secretary, has been activated from January 2020, and they meet regularly to discuss progress in preparation and to address any gaps that we may experience. The Honorable Prime Minister activated NEMAC on Friday, February 28, 2020, to raise the alert and level of preparedness. The national COVID-19 plans have been finalized, including the risk communication plan. Protocols have been adopted and shared with the relevant sectors. On Sunday, March 1st, 2020, the Honorable Prime Minister, Alan Chastanet, with the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, and Chief Environmental Health Officer, Mr. Packer Ragnanan, attended the special meeting of CARICOM in Barbados. This was convened to discuss the threat of COVID-19 to the region. Mr. Speaker, I have to break here to say that I have often lamented that we must not play politics with healthcare. And this is where I want to caution everyone in St. Lucia. to please stick to the facts when it comes to coronavirus. We must be very careful what it is that we post on Facebook, on social media. We do not want to cause anybody to panic, because this is a disease that we believe can be controlled if we follow all the protocols. Therefore, when you are giving out information, ensure that it is coming from the right source and that you are giving out facts and not just information that is going to cause people to panic. St. Lucia is our country. We are all in, and we need to ensure that when we send out information, it is correct information, and that we are protecting the health and welfare of all citizens of St. Lucia. I want to echo the sentiments of the Honorable Sean Edward when he attended the meeting that the Prime Minister convened, and he commented on the great work that has been done by the Ministry of Health. He stated sentiments to the effect that the work that we had done in St. Lucia so far was unsurpassed, probably the best in the region. And I commend the Honorable Senator Edward for making these statements. This is where you see that we come together, we unite in the name of healthcare, and that is so very important for our country. Healthcare facility reparation is ongoing, Mr. Speaker. Healthcare workers are continuously trained, and medical protocol, including infection prevention and control, as well as clinical treatment guidelines, have been shared with all institutions. Isolation and quarantine facilities have been identified. Medication and equipment has been procured to manage the expected increases in respiratory cases. A referral plan has been organized to facilitate treatment at one isolation unit. Presently, CAFA provides diagnostic capacity for COVID-19. This takes between 4 to 24 hours to get results. We do not have testing capacity on island, and this is why we must depend on CAFA to do our testing for us. The equipment to facilitate testing for COVID-19, however, has been procured and shipped, and the 7-day training for the lab staff is scheduled to commence with the arrival of the equipment. The present capacity of the hospital isolation unit that we have is 15 beds. Sensitization of non-healthcare workers is ongoing. This includes, but is not limited to, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Tourism, Tourism Authority, St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association, St. Lucia Air and Seaport Authority, Chamber of Commerce, our police force, the fire service, the transportation sector, including minibus operators, and the taxi association. The port health services has been enhanced. Assessments have been done at all port facilities for the core capacities. Public health training for border control officers has been done at all ports. The screening and surveillance of incoming passengers has also been enhanced. The collaboration between other agencies, including customs, immigration, and vessel agents, has allowed information sharing and timely decision making. Personal protective equipment has been provided to border control agencies and is being made available as requested. Appropriate technologies have been employed to enhance surveillance of incoming passengers to St. Lucia. Increased human resources are employed at ports of entry to facilitate port health coverage. Additional measures have been implemented for leisure vessels, including the submission of Maritime Declaration of Health. I do not know if you're aware, but we have called on everyone who is a qualified nurse in St. Lucia to report to the Ministry of Health, to apply so that we can engage you and, of course, employ you so that we can have sufficient hands on deck. So if you know of anyone who is out there, who has healthcare training, public health as well as nursing, please feel free to ask them to approach the ministry so that they can apply to start working with us in our attempts to try and keep this coronavirus at bay. A communication plan has been developed. This prioritizes awareness building and education on COVID-19 to reduce myths, misconceptions, and miscommunication on the virus. The plan promotes health behaviors that reduce risk of exposure and infection and provides status updates on preparedness of stakeholders and agencies engaged in the national COVID-19 response. Extensive planning, costing in excess of $1 million, is ongoing to prepare for the possibility of the introduction of cases in country transmission. This includes, but is not limited to, the setup of community respiratory clinics and 5 specific locations for ambulatory care, and the expedited move of the Victoria Hospital to the OKEU Hospital to facilitate the transformation of Victoria Hospital to a respiratory hospital. The implementation of COVID-19 treatment terms for care is also being organized. The Department of Health and Wellness, with the support received through the approved budget by the Ministry of Finance, and we have to thank the workers at the Ministry of Finance for stepping up as quickly as possible to facilitate and to source the additional funding that we required so that we can continue strengthening our systems to ensure enhanced capacity to manage this global threat. The population is reminded to continue working with us by practicing the necessary infection prevention and control measures recommended by the health teams. As you can see today when you came in, you have hand sanitizers available so that you can ensure that you sanitize your hands. As the world is fighting the COVID-19 coronavirus originated from Wuhan, China, the government of St. Lucia wished to take this opportunity to commend Taiwan for its efficient and efficacious measures and its offer to work closely with St. Lucia to contain the pandemic. We have been informed by the ambassador to Taiwan that should we need additional assistance, we ought to feel free to inform them, and they will assist as best as they can. We also urge the World Health Organization, who does not recognize Taiwan at their meetings, to honor its commitment to fully involve Taiwan in all of WHO's relevant consultations, clinical networks, and allow Taiwan to be fully engaged and fully aware of all the developments. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you and the members of this Honorable House for giving me the opportunity, on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, to give an update on our level of preparedness to combat this deadly virus. I thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I commend the Minister and the Ministry of Health, in particular the Chief Medical Officer and her team, for the response so far for the COVID crisis now sweeping the world. Their task is not an easy one, and they deserve our full support. The actions taken by our government have been aimed at delaying and, if possible, prevent coronavirus from reaching us altogether. As a government, we know that our population is particularly vulnerable, partly due to the large number of persons with diabetes and hypertension and other chronic illnesses which are susceptible to the coronavirus. We've also recognized that there is currently insufficient space available to support a major outbreak in St. Lucia. Hence, we've made some initial efforts and committed significant financial resources, which have already been highlighted by the Ministry of Health. As we continue to look at alternatives and make adjustments, we will continue to update the population on the specifics of our approach. I assure you that we are working aggressively to find a solution for the worst-case scenario. That same preparation and preemptness action has meant that we've had to take some tough decisions at local as well as the regional level. In particular, we've had to make difficult decisions as it pertains to cruise ship calls to Port Castries. Over the last few weeks, in consultation with the cruise ship industry, we have denied entry of one ship and the rerouting of a few others. Preliminary calculations show that we have foregone approximately 18,721 cruise passengers coming to our shores. These are the difficult decisions we've had to make, but I have to say, always in the best interest of our citizens. Once we started to dialogue with the cruise industry, however, we realized that the protocols from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CAFA, dealt more specifically with the airline industry and shipping, but did not speak in detail about the cruise industry and yachting. We also realized that we did not have a common policy in the region, making it difficult for the ships to operate. In order to address the coronavirus, CARICOM put together a committee of the Ministers of Health, with a subcommittee also set up to prepare a preliminary report. Due to the absence of a common policy and the fallout that ensued, I was able to get the FCCA to make a presentation to the subcommittee in order to highlight some of their major issues and concerns. Among the concerns was that while we were making the adjustments to the countries where we imposed travel cautions, cruise ships were already mid-journey on their way to our islands. The fact is, unlike an airline that can change from one day to the next, a cruise ship is already at sea. Also, due to the numbers of passengers on the ship, there was a greater sensitivity by the countries for us to take into consideration our own capacity to handle the situation of corona. So over the past 2 weeks, CARICOM has been moving quickly. The subcommittee reported to the overall committee by Friday, February 28th, and Chairperson Prime Minister Mia Mottley decided it was urgent enough that we should have a specific meeting 2 days later with the cruise industry on the subject. The meeting came together rapidly, and every effort was made to ensure that, despite the short notice, as many prime ministers, ministers of health, organizations of agencies could participate, whether to be there physically or via Zoom. It was a pretty remarkable feat and a testament to the importance that the FCCA places on the region, that they were able to get as many cruise ship companies and their senior executives to physically come to Barbados to participate in this meeting with 2 days' notice. The singular purpose of the meeting was to understand the difference between the role of the World Health Organization, Pan American Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, CDC, and CARFA. CARFA deals specifically with CARICOM and takes into consideration our unique challenges and recommends policies specific to us. Hence, though the CARFA position may have the same DNA of these other organizations, it may also have different conditions. I want to particularly explain that the aim of this urgent meeting was to fully establish a standard operating procedures that would be easily translated to the cruise industry. It was a detailed discussion which looked at a common list of affected countries, requirements of passengers on the ship, and what our protocols we were to use in various situations. For example, where people were sick, who could disembark, and providing of advance information to the CMOs. One of the more important discussions was if a ship had coronavirus case, how would it be handled? Our discussion clearly analyzed the threat that we face and our approach. In fact, we came up with an approach almost identical to what was obtained recently with the U.S. dealing with the situation in San Francisco. Even the U.S., as we speak today, have not finalized their own protocols, So as a region, we're way ahead in that regard. Following the meeting on Sunday, a draft document was prepared by CAFA and circulated by Tuesday. By Friday, all the countries had signed on to the protocol. I can report now that we do have a common protocol. But we do differ only on the countries we've selected to provide travel advisories on. I will be circulating for members the accepted protocol by CAFA for your information. We're doing more and more at a regional level. The chairman of the CTO, the Honorable Dominic Fede, along with the president of the CHTA, under the supervision of the Bahamas, who is the lead prime minister on tourism, has been working for the last 2 weeks to put together a Caribbean tourism conference with the World Tourism Organization, the World Travel and Tourism Council, and the FCCA and airlines. The purpose is to have a one-day discussion specifically on tourism and the coronavirus fallout, as well as preserve the global confidence in Caribbean tourism. As we prepare our 2021 budget, we're also monitoring what is happening on the world stage. The economic fallout in the last couple of days in the global stock market, which is a result of the continued spread of the coronavirus, as well as the oil price war, which has now erupted between Russia and Saudi Arabia, this has created a tremendous amount of economic anxiety. Hence, we are in dialogue with the central bank, the World Bank, the CDB, and the IMF on what measures and mechanisms can we put in place in order to maintain the confidence of the business community and the viability of our economy. A conference call with the IMF is scheduled with the region for Monday next week. Hence, we're going to have to delay the budget presentation until we have a full picture of economic implications in order that our numbers can be adjusted with the new normal. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Finance will have a report for me by Wednesday with the possible ways we can support the tourism industry and, by extension, our business community. I can report that we have run several different models in order to predict and prepare for the fallout, in particular with regard to tourism arrivals. We will not be caught off guard. I want to assure St. Lucians that the priority is on the health sector and in anticipation of what's going to happen. We're in parallel, we're considering everything we can do to give support to our economy. The good news is that the government's major capital investment programs, the airport, the St. Jude, the police headquarters, the road rehabilitation, our CDP projects, and improvements in our healthcare sector will continue and will help to cushion some of the negative impacts. Our government has taken an approach of viewing the coronavirus situation as we would a hurricane. That is why we mobilized the National Emergency Management Advisory Council, NEMAC. I'm very grateful to the opposition for attending our first NEMAC meeting on this issue, and I am grateful, equally grateful, for the acknowledgement by the opposition of the hard work and professional staff that we have at the Ministry of Health. By treating the coronavirus as an impending hurricane, we're operating with the understanding that we have a potentially catastrophic event coming. Like a hurricane, there is uncertainty. It could hit us, or it may not hit us. When it's going to hit us and how strong it's going to be are still things that we cannot predict with any level of certainty. But we have all learned now how unpredictable hurricanes have become since the advent of climate change. Similarly, there is a tremendous amount that we don't know. Hence, like a hurricane, we must be prepared. In this case, instead of cleaning our drains and cutting down overhanging branches, we have to change our behavior. One, in terms of hygiene, and two, in terms of how we interact with each other. Coronavirus is transmitted by people, and we are still learning a lot about the virus every day. Sadly, we do not have a vaccine, and the absence of a vaccine has created hysteria. In speaking about the outbreak, the New York Governor, Andrew Cuomo, said, "We have a coronavirus epidemic, but we also have a pandemic called fear." Fear will not save us. I know human behavior changes don't happen overnight, but make no mistake, this is not a test. Hence, I want to again applaud the Ministry of Health and their Communications Department for the work they have been doing in providing very comprehensive details on what we should be doing to protect ourselves. We will be seeking the support of all media houses in really assisting us in saturating the country with the preventive information. If we are successful in spreading the word, practicing good hygiene, and effectively change our behaviors, then this, in fact, is the vaccine to slow down or limit the ability of our virus. Let me repeat that again. If we are to effectively change our behaviors, in essence, it becomes the vaccine. Because if we do have a case, the ability for it to spread fast is reduced significantly. I repeat, we don't need to panic. Instead, we need to prepare. Thank you.
Prime Minister, can you turn off? Honorable Member for Macon North and Minister for Education, Innovation, Gender Relations and Sustainable Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I please invoke 83.1 and ask that you permit my technical officers to enter the chamber to maneuver the technology? Thank you.
We shall not invoke 83.1, but I will so permit.
Mr. Speaker, I begin on a solemn note this morning as I beg your indulgence and seek your kind permission to recall the lives and memory of 4 of my constituents lost to motor vehicular accidents in the last few months, namely Teresa Jules, Kirtland Mason, Alden Joseph, and last Saturday, a distinguished firefighter, footballer, and community leader, Fitz Andre Ryder Charlery. The latter 3 accidents, Mr. Speaker, involved motorcycles. We also lost young Omari Louis of the Piero Combined School following a road accident. Mr. Speaker, while we bow our heads for a few moments to recall these and other precious lives lost tragically, let us also recommit ourselves to doing more to stem or curb the carnage on our roads and to advocate for greater safety measures on our roads and beaches, for example. Allow me, please, Mr. Speaker, to recognize the teachers and students who have joined us today. I am further obliged to acknowledge the presence of lead fireman Cecil Charles and his colleague firefighters, and to offer sincere condolences to them on the loss of their colleague, Fitz Andre Charlery. Do know that we here in the Parliament will continue to pray for you and the families of the deceased. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to education and beg your attention while I share with this honorable House some of the progress we have made thus far with respect to our e-education thrust in the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations, which is one of 2 departments that falls within my ministry, the other, of course, being sustainable development. The government of St. Lucia views education as a basic human right and the platform to enable citizens to attain their full human potential. This pursuit, in part, is informed by Sustainable Development Goal, SDG number 4, which aims, and I quote, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Further, we recognize that given the paradigmatic changes in the global political economy, with digitization at its core, giving rise to a world characterized and driven by new and emerging information and communication technologies, the government, the Department of Education, Innovation, and Gender Relations is duty-bound to ensure that our students are adequately equipped to function and to excel in a digital world. Therefore, it is with that mindset that the Department of Education has approached the challenge to make our education sector one which is more relevant, more inclusive, more equitable, and one which embraces and leverages new methods for instruction and learning. It is our desire to do so through the application of key interventions which we believe will positively alter the education landscape. One of our major interventions, therefore, is the integration or infusion of information communications technologies into education. Permit me, colleagues, to highlight the work of the department in creating the ecosystem of e-education, one of the pillars of our multi-pronged strategy and a key driver which, when effectively incorporated into our education system, will transform the way we do business in the classroom and in the education sector in general. It is no coincidence, Mr. Speaker, that the prefix E has become part of our everyday parlance to signify the ubiquity of digital technologies in the private and public sectors in our recreational, personal, and spiritual lives. Thus, Mr. Speaker, in acknowledging and understanding the changing nature of life, of business and social engagement, and the implications for employability and mere survival, this government is focused on transforming the education sector, premised on the notion that we live in a digital world. Hence, references to e-commerce, e-banking, e-government, e-shopping, etc. Mr. Speaker, to ensure the full and meaningful participation of our citizens, the bedrock of it all is e-education. E-education for us means the integration or infusion of ICTs or digital technologies in the exercise and experience of teaching and learning. E-education is seen as the catalyst that will transform St. Lucia's economic fortunes and facilitate the attainment of the social conditions necessary for bettering the quality of life for our St. Lucian citizens in a world that is changing and in some sectors changing fast. Investing in education, injecting resources in e-education in particular, therefore, is investing in our people. It's an investment which will yield a high return if, in the transformative process, the champions, our educators who lead the charge, are cognizant of and responsive to global trends while remaining true to our national or local context. Our e-education thrust seeks to bridge the digital divide between what exists locally and that which obtains globally by creating a conducive environment for the use and integration of technology for instruction and learning effectiveness. It also seeks to equip our St. Lucian students with a diverse set of technological tools and digital skills or e-skills necessary to function in a technologically diverse global environment. Mr. Speaker, you may also recall that at page 20 of this government's 2016 policy document, under the subheading, Introducing Modern ICT Through the Economy, we assert ICT is not merely an economic sector in its own right, but it cuts across every other sector, industry, and activity. We believe that ICT has the potential to be the most significant driver of growth and development that we have ever experienced. It is of central importance and will be one of the focal points of our development strategy, end of quote. Having set the overarching policy framework and having the e-architecture of the sector demarcated, we are now in a position to build and strengthen the pillar we see as having a significant role in effecting the desired transformation of the education sector. And Mr. Speaker, very importantly, delivering on pronouncements made in that regard on pages 20, 29, 30, 33, 34, and 35 of this administration's policy document. The vision necessitates the creation of an environment that facilitates the comprehensive integration of ICTs through 1, institutionalization of the supporting policy and legislation, 2, the provision, installation, implementation of the infrastructural and technical framework and backbone, 3, the remodeling of classrooms into e-classrooms or smart classrooms, 4, the acquisition of e-skills by students, 5, the training of educators to enhance their e-competency, 6, the availability and application of relevant software, and 7, the provision of hardware, all of which are critical components of the ecosystem of e-education. To this end, Mr. Speaker, following are the highlights of our various interventions as pertains e-education in particular. Endorsing and implementing, number 1, endorsing and implementing the ICT in education policy. Over the past decade and a half, there have been several attempts to establish an ICT in education policy for St. Lucia. While draft policies had been prepared, none was fully ratified nor implemented. Thanks to the collaboration between the Department of Education, Innovation, and Gender Relations and the Commonwealth of Learning, and this government's insistence to have in place a strategic approach for the integration of ICT in education for St. Lucia, this government, this cabinet of ministers in 2019 ratified, endorsed, and embraced the ICT in education policy. It is widely accepted that the desired educational outcomes in the 21st century have significant implications for the role of ICT in education, and that countries choosing to ignore this reality do so at their peril. It is inconceivable that effective education in a digital age can take place without leveraging the capability of ICT. The 2015-2020 Education Sector Development Plan for St. Lucia, cognizant of such a reality, calls for an expanded role for ICT in education as a tool to improve educational outcomes for learners and as a means of improving efficiencies throughout the education system. Number 2, increasing bandwidth. Thanks to the meaningful and fruitful collaboration of the Embassy of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and Digicel, we have increased bandwidth in schools through the GINet and CARSIP projects. The need for increased bandwidth must be underscored and emphasized, as this is the backbone to support all the initiatives within the school system. Number 3, upgrading technical drawing labs. Inasmuch as the vision of the ministry is to integrate ICTs in education, sometimes global demands mandate that the ministry moves quicker to ensure that our students in no way are disadvantaged when it comes to the use of technology for academic purposes. Changes in the assessment methodology introduced by CXC has made it compulsory that all students possess IT skills. In this vein, technical drawing assessments were changed from manual drawings to the use of auto-computer-aided designs or AutoCAD. This meant retrofitting our TD Lab facilities that are now state-of-the-art with new computers that are compatible with industry-standard software and outfitted with technological devices that allow for effective technical instruction and learning. Through a $2.5 million EC dollar grant from the Republic of China, Taiwan, the Department of Education last year was able to upgrade 13 technical drawing labs in 13 secondary schools. This intervention impacted at least 1,366 students and more than 20 teachers. This upgrade means that our students will now be equipped with the skills that will enable them to be successful in their exams and enhance their employability upon graduation, as they would have been exposed to industry-standard technologies, methodologies, and techniques. These skills will augur well not only for exams and their work readiness, but very importantly, also furnish our students with the skills that will allow them to set up businesses that are relevant in this technological era, enabling them to become entrepreneurs. 4, introducing digital literacy courses. We must acknowledge that a dynamic education system is fundamental to creating a vibrant and innovative society. Today, more than ever, the pace of change is exponential, breathtaking, and relentless. Education, therefore, must respond to be proactive to ensure that students are provided with the necessary knowledge, skills, and attitude and values for the 21st century. Worldwide information and communication technologies are used in education to assist students to learn more effectively by providing teachers with access to a wide range of new pedagogy. Why then should our St. Lucian students remain disadvantaged? Under this administration, steps are being taken to ensure that our students are skilled and capable of taking their rightful place on the global stage. It is our responsibility to provide them with the necessary tools and equipment that will enhance their chances of success. To this end, our interventions continue to be strategic and implemented in a manner that allow one to build upon the other and at the same time leverage synergies and economies of scale. The recently introduced digital literacy curriculum is one that is premised on the fact that the careers of the future are in areas that require digital competencies. Hence, the introduction of digital literacy courses into our school system will redound to greater proficiency of teachers and students in the use of technology. With CXC's move to online testing at the Caribbean secondary education certificate level, we note that students' digital fluency will affect their ability to successfully complete their exams. The Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations has since developed a digital literacy curriculum guide that will help provide a framework for digital literacy education at the lower secondary level. The curriculum document outlines the critical computer and productivity software skills, keyboarding proficiency, as well as internet safety. The guide was developed with the contribution from both IT and electronic document and preparation management teachers and has now replaced IT and EDPM curriculum for Forms 1 to 3 at all secondary schools. To add to its efforts in curriculum development, the department, through the CAMDO unit, developed and designed the course Technology in Sport. This course is well aligned with the offerings at the newly established St. Lucia Sports Academy, where we seek to develop wholesome students who can pursue various careers within the sporting profession. The Department of Education is moving towards the creation of smart classrooms to facilitate this and other such programs or classes. The intent is to establish these classrooms at the primary and secondary school levels to foster opportunities for teaching and learning by integrating learning technologies such as computers, specialized software, audience response technology, assistive learning devices, assistive listening devices, networking, and audiovisual capabilities. These smart computer labs or classrooms will contain appropriate furniture, age and grade specific furniture, with wall-mounted electronic whiteboards and the corresponding short-throw computer projector. The digital literacy curriculum, coupled with CXC's demands, mean that there will be the corresponding investment in equipment and furniture for our schools. The government has, therefore, committed to an investment amounting to 3.8 million EC dollars for the computerization of schools. If this isn't putting money where our mouth is, I don't know what it is. Again, Mr. Speaker, delivering on promises and policy pronouncements I referred to earlier. At number 5, establishing a digital academy at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. There is even more on the horizon with the plan to establish a digital academy in St. Lucia at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. In anticipation of this, already Sir Arthur Lewis Community College students are being exposed to a suite of online courses and digital media programs which will expand with the full establishment of the Digital Academy, for which we have already identified grant funding in the tune of $1 million US. This effort will go a long way in facilitating the realization of the dreams of our students who wish to pursue careers in animation, design gaming, and music mixing, for example. At number 6, training of teachers. Curriculum development on its own, Mr. Speaker, is of little significance. To ensure that curricula are effective and serve the purpose for which they are or were created, there must be the accompanying teacher training and equipment that supports curricular development. Mr. Speaker, with your kind indulgence, now that I have established a broad architecture of e-education, permit me please to highlight some specific projects we have implemented recently or are currently implementing. At number 1, computer coding and robotics. This society has long lamented that our education system has a one-size-fits-all approach to educating our students. The department has, over the past year, been introducing various initiatives into schools and monitoring students' responses. One such initiative was the introduction of robotics and coding. Last year, hundreds of our secondary school students were introduced to aspects of coding and robotics as part of a pilot project done with the kind assistance of our USAID partners. This sparked a creative interest in our students, and the plan is to continue this engagement that saw not only students being able to build functional robots and to code, but also improved student attendance, punctuality, and academic performance. The pilot program in computer coding and robotics was launched at 4 secondary schools, namely Beanfield Secondary, Bocage Secondary, Grand Riviere Secondary, and Soufrière Comprehensive School. This endeavor was valued at over $326,000 and included laptops, robotics kits, projectors, mobile charging stations, and Wi-Fi access points, which were all supplied to the participating schools by USAID through their Community, Family, and Youth Resilience Program. To date, teachers and youth mentors have been trained to teach basic computer coding using the LEGO Mindstorms platform. The selected schools have also been equipped with the necessary hardware and internet infrastructure to facilitate delivery of newly developed computer coding and robotics curriculum. This initiative will harness students' natural inclination toward digital technology while supporting concept development in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, develop problem solving and critical thinking skills. Over 300 students in Forms 1 and 2 have been registered into this program at the four aforementioned schools. The teachers who were trained at these schools have also agreed to extend access to this opportunity via an after-school program. This will likely feature senior students at those schools who are particularly enthusiastic about the technology. The Department of Education has helped to facilitate some of the very talented students in participating in both regional and international technology competitions. For example, our students participated in the first Global Robotics Olympic-style challenge held in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 2017. We placed 51st among well over 160 nations. Our team featured some of our best young minds. St. Lucia's participation in this event is particularly relevant as it provides an avenue for young people to explore their potential in applied technology and gain experience in using technology to help solve real-world problems such as pollution and a wide variety of climate-related challenges. They have also participated in other regional competitions. Another project which is ongoing, which is dubbed Pro Futuro, thanks to the great advocacy on our part and that of St. Lucia's Embassy in Washington, a generous contribution of $150,000 from the Pro Futuro Foundation provided the opportunity to implement a technology in education initiative at 12 primary schools on island. This project aims to promote access to quality education through the use of digital standardized content, reduce the education gap through the use of ICTs, promote digital education in the most disadvantaged sectors, empower teachers to bring innovation to their classrooms, and prepare children for the new digital society. The program components of this initiative include provision of equipment, technology such as laptops, routers, tablets, projectors. 2, digital content, education digital platform with access to linguistics, STEM, and life skills courses, and of course, training provided to coaches and teachers, with several of them having graduated in the last couple of weeks. Under this initiative, we have trained champion educators, teachers, and have distributed class sets of laptops, tablets, a content server, and Wi-Fi access point to all of the participating schools. And we are committed to providing the requisite continuous teacher training support and monitoring. Number 3, e-books. Some time ago, under the previous Labor administration, the Ministry of Education had introduced the one laptop per child initiative. However, the dynamic technological environment within which we operate rendered this initiative no longer relevant, as it missed out on many key components necessary for the successful integration of technology in education. During that period, students were simply handed out laptops without the corresponding internet access, curriculum, content, tools, and skills that would allow for a more comprehensive introduction and use of technology for academic purposes. Today, after a revisit of this exercise, the department has launched a more all-encompassing e-books initiative. This project targets the third form students who would have chosen their CSEC subjects at the end of Form 2. The target group comprises 13 secondary schools, 1,002 students, 220 teachers, and 50 support staff. Over 1,000 parents have also been consulted and sensitized about the value of this initiative. The introduction of e-books is one of the key components of the department's e-education drive, focused on diversifying modes of instruction with the ultimate desired outcome of improved performance of our students, as well as preparing them for technologically advanced work environments. This e-book initiative is in strategic alignment with the department's ICT in education policy and is in consonance with the government's own policy direction. Thus, the introduction of e-books to the teaching and learning process is an essential component to complete the e-education ecosystem. The beauty of this device is that it comes preloaded with content aligned to the CXC or CSEC syllabus. This device can be accessed offline, making it easy for students who may not have internet access at home to still get great utility from the device. This Learn Book presents major cost-saving factors for parents and educational institutions, as not only is it, in this case, being provided to the students free of charge, it also means content for 6 subject areas are available in one place. The virtual labs provide a safe space for students to conduct experiments over and over without incurring any cost for the procurement of material which they may need and or that the school may have to procure on their behalf. The Learn Book is interactive, user-friendly, easy to carry around, and can be used both in an online and offline setting. Teachers can use the device in class for teaching, research, submitting, and marking assignments. Some other exciting features of this device include teachers can customize and push additional content, including open educational resources to students, text, video, image, PDF, web URL links, and audio resources can be added for student access. Note-taking allows users to insert a sticky note that could be used for review and summarization, for example. Highlights allow users to highlight sentences, phrases, and words for reference later on. Activities include interactive, responsive, practical exercises. There's a quiz component with multiple choice questions, a bank or banks of multiple choice questions. There is also digital video, a combination of 2D and 3D mono videos for specific topics. Audiobook provides students the ability to listen to content on the go rather than just read. Simulations and virtual labs. Students are able to perform virtual lab experiments on the tablets. The introduction of e-books at schools is one of the components of our education reform process. This initiative is being considered with the view to making learning and instruction more effective and dynamic while allowing students to embrace the use of technology in a manner that facilitates development and growth. It is pellucidly obvious that this current initiative is a much more advanced and holistic approach to technology integration than the one laptop per child initiative. Mr. Speaker, the total investment, and I want to underscore investment, in this initiative is $2,540,301.50. I now move to training and professional development, another important component of the ecosystem of e-education. We will all agree that infrastructure and equipment alone are not enough for the full integration of technology into the education system. Investing in the training and professional development of our education administrators is equally important. Thus far, the department has provided training in many areas which should allow for the smooth transitioning into digital instruction methods. Training has been provided in the following areas: Raspberry Pi and STEM teaching. We know that our students struggle in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Through the introduction of technology instruction, we can make learning more effective, and the department, therefore, through a series of workshops, introduced the Raspberry Pi to 15 teachers, 60 students, and 16 secondary schools. Thanks to this program, a series of small single-board computers developed to promote teaching of basic computer science in schools is now available to the participating schools. The objectives of the workshops were to train teachers in the use of the technology platform as a tool for STEM education, to improve students' engagement in the learning of STEM concepts, and to encourage more students to take up STEM courses. The efforts of the ministry are not isolated and seek to create linkages across subject areas through the use of technology. Digital Leadership Education Pilot Initiative, C-Delta. It's already been established that training of educational leaders is germane to the ICT integration efforts. Further training has been provided through a Commonwealth of Learning initiative, and this was undertaken with the view to narrowing the digital literacy competency gap and achieve digital competencies among teachers and students. This was rolled out at no cost to the participants. It is anticipated that the teachers trained will become digital education leaders in their respective schools. Some 150 teachers and 350 teachers and 375 students from 22 secondary schools received skills training and were exposed to the C-Delta platform. C-Delta is about building a digital education environment where ICT and digital literacy competencies can be evaluated and addressed. It provides a robust framework for measuring and for building ICT competencies. Adoption of the C-Delta program will allow the department to move a step further in realizing its ambitions for 21st century digital citizenship among all learners, and thanks in part to a grant from the Canadians of over $18,000 to meet some of the associated costs. Leveraging ICTs for administrative efficiencies. The efforts at information and communication technology integration are not limited to the classroom environment, but have been incorporated into the philosophy of work within the administrative arms of the department. To this end, through the work of the IT department, no longer does the department need to incur costs associated with marking of our minimum standards tests in Barbados. This can now be undertaken through the newly developed Hexagram National Assessment System, developed in-house by our own technicians. The Department of Education continues to make progress with software solutions and in-house developed systems that are designed to improve operational efficiency. This year, the Hexagram system will be used to grade the multiple choice components of the grade 4 minimum standards test. The department expects to realize better efficiency with the processing of student answer sheets, the grading of papers, data entry of scores, and more timely and flexible reporting of results and analysis. Number 6, Mr. Speaker, the department has also teamed up with Hodder Education, the publisher of the Caribbean Primary Mathematics textbook, to run a one-year pilot of its mathematics online assessment bank at 12 primary schools. This effort is aimed at providing support for teachers with quality assessment in mathematics. Teachers will be able to assess, search for items, and match their needs to specific learning outcomes and organize appropriate test and evaluation instruments for their students. Teachers will be trained to use the platform, and it is anticipated that their use of the assessment bank will help improve both their assessment and intervention strategies in mathematics. In closing, the Department of Education continues to make significant strides at improving educational outcomes through the use of ICTs. While resources remain scarce, the department has managed to be very creative and has taken the initiative to seek assistance from external donor agencies and friendly governments to support its respective programs. Our education system must embrace ICTs if it is to remain relevant in this 21st century. The real value of technology will always be determined by how well we can use it. As such, capacity development remains a main theme and a critical outcome of many of the department's ICTs in education or e-education initiatives. Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged at this time to thank my colleagues at the Ministry of Education, to thank stakeholders throughout the education system for embracing this very comprehensive approach to e-education. And since I have two of the champions here in the chamber, with your kind permission, I'd like to thank Josh, Mr. Venner, and Jermaine Anthony, who have worked tirelessly to ensure that we can breathe true meaning into what we mean by comprehensive, holistic e-education drive in our ministry. Thank you.
Member for Denry South and Minister for Youth Development and Sports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I go into my statement, let me welcome the students and teacher from the current secondary school who have taken time off to be with us here today. It's always good, it's always a good thing, you know, for our students to come into our chamber to learn the procedures of our parliament. Students, teachers, once again for coming. Mr. Speaker, as we try to hail and celebrate some of our sportsmen and women, although I suspect our Prime Minister was trying to steal some of the thunder, but, Mr. Speaker, let me go into the statement. In 2019-2020, St. Lucia's sportsmen and women have carried our flag in their sporting exploits at regional, continental, and world competitions with distinction. I wish to draw to the attention of this House the outstanding achievements of our young men and women as they sacrificed, persevered, and challenged themselves in pursuit of personal and national glory. Just some of them, Mr. Speaker. We don't have enough time to go through and give you, the details of everybody. In athletics, Mr. Speaker, 14-year-old Jaheim Ferdinand, whose performance in the North American, Central America, and the Caribbean, they call it the NACAP Age Group Championship, serves as inspiration for his peers and his community of library at large. Jaheim participated in the heptathlon event, where he won a gold and 4 silver medals in all competitions in the 13 to 14 age group category. Again, in junior athletics, and our Prime Minister spoke of Julian Alfred. Despite her challenges with injury last year, went on to win 2 gold medals, 4 silvers and 2 bronze in all competitions for her school, the Texas Longhorns. In so doing, Miss Alfred shaved off 0.62 seconds in her 100-meter time, having started the year at 11.83 seconds and ending the year at 11.21 seconds. In the 60 meters, she broke the national indoor record 3 times. Her performance of 7.18 seconds in this event was not only a national record, but the second fastest in the National Collegiate Athletics Association NCAA Division 1, that is. With these performances, Julian Alfred attained the standards to participate in the 100 and 200 meters at the International Amateur Athletics Federation IAAF World Championship in October last year. But due to injury, she had to be withdrawn. In senior men athletics, Albert Reynolds registered 82.19 meters in the javelin throw at the Pan Am Games to win the bronze medal. This is a new national record, eclipsing the one he had set earlier in the year. Albert is now ranked 30th in the world in the javelin event, 45 places higher than his ranking in 2018. In senior athletics, women, Laverne Spencer capped her 20th year of excellence in representing St. Lucia, with outstanding performances, medaling in many of the international events she participated in throughout 2019. Worthy of special mention is the placing 5th at the IAAF Diamond League Invitational and 13th at the IAAF World Championship in Doha, Qatar, and winning gold at the Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru, in the high jump event. Laverne's perseverance and longevity serves as an inspiration for the entire nation. In swimming, Mr. Speaker, 17-year-old Jayan Odlum Smith was the most consistent swimmer in St. Lucia in 2019. At the Carifta Swimming Championships, Jayan won 2 silver medals in the 50-meter butterfly and the 100-meter butterfly, respectively. At the Central American and Caribbean Swimming Federation CICICAN Swimming Championship, Jayan won 1 gold medal in the 50-meter butterfly and a silver medal in the 100 meters. At the FINA World Championships, where Jayan represented St. Lucia, though he did not medal, he set 2 new national age group records. 16-year-old Mikali Abaji won 6 gold medals and 5 silver at the OECS Swimming Championships in the 15 to 17 age group category. She was the highest points earner at this event. At this event, she set 4 new OECS records in the 15-meter breaststroke, 50-meter breaststroke, 100-meter freestyle, and 50-meter freestyle, and the 50-meter butterfly event. The time set in the 100-meter freestyle was also a national record. At the international level, Mikali participated in the FINA World Championship and won her heat from being seeded 6th place in entering. Last month, Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia registered a team in the 2020 UANA Swimming Cup in Peru, and the Prime Minister also spoke of this. The team returned home with a total of 20 medals, placing St. Lucia 8th out of 25 countries which participated. The team members were Carrick Charles, Antoine Destang, Ethan Hazel, Tristan Dorville, and Naim Hazel. Included among the medals are gold in the 200 meters medley male, gold and silver in the 50-meter freestyle male, gold in the 11 to 12 male medley relay, gold in the 4x100 meter relay freestyle, shattering the mid record held by Mexico. In table tennis, Mr. Speaker, 14-year-old DeAndre Caldron is putting in performances beyond his age. Last year at the Caribbean Under-15 Championships, he won a bronze medal in the team and boys double events. Later in the year, at the Caribbean Summer Camp, DeAndre clinched the Under-15 Singles Championship gold medal. He also won gold medal in the Open Under-21 Singles at Barbados Scooters Table Tennis Club Championship. At the tender age of 14 years, DeAndre Caldron has defeated every senior player on island. In football, Mr. Speaker, last year we celebrated the outstanding accomplishments of the St. Lucia Under-15 national boys team when they went on to win the CONCACAF Division II Championship. More recently, the St. Lucia National Under-20 women team made it to the second round of the Under-20 World Cup qualification, where they were unfortunate to have been drawn against the mighty USA. And so, although in most of the game, their performances were significant, they were defeated 6-0 by the US team. In cricket, Mr. Speaker, the exemplary batting skills and leadership of Kimani Melius has seen him gone on to perform outstandingly at the regional and international level. During last year, Kimani went on to captain the St. Lucia National Under-19 team and earned a regular place in the Windward Islands Volcanoes senior cricket team. Kimani also captained the Windward Island Under-19 team, which went on to place second in the West Indies Under-19 tournament. Kimani's outstanding performances and leadership at the regional level saw him appointed as captain of the West Indies Under-19 cricket team for the Tri-Nations series between England, Sri Lanka, and West Indies. Later, Kimani led the young West Indies team at the Under-19 Cricket World Cup. The highly talented right-handed opening batsman in St. Lucia is St. Lucia's national batting record holder, having made the highest individual score by any St. Lucian, 275 runs. The accomplishments, Mr. Speaker, which I have just highlighted, provides a beacon of hope for the future of sports in St. Lucia, as most of the achievements were attained by our junior sportsmen and women. This is an indication that our emphasis on sports programming, focus on exposing young people to sports at a very early and tender age, is bearing and will continue to bear fruit. Our aim as the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports in St. Lucia is to work with the associations, federations, clubs to increase the base of participation in all sports, thereby engendering the lessons and benefits of sports to a wider pool of our children. In so doing, Mr. Speaker, it is expected that the special sporting talents in our youth will be identified early and nurtured to the full potential. In the coming days, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports will be holding the biggest track and field events in St. Lucia for our young people. The inter-school, inter-district primary school sports meet, and the inter-schools sports meet at the secondary level. The preparations they have made, the competitive spirit with which they will display their craft, the real sense of camaraderie that is expected to be displayed should not be unnoticed or should not go unnoticed and unappreciated. So I urge all of you, everyone in this chamber, parents, alumni of the respective schools, friends, well-wishers, to be present at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground to witness those events. And the dates: the Inter-School Athletics Championship semi-finals, Wednesday, 18th March. And that is semi-finals. The Inter-Schools Athletics Championship finals, this Friday, the 20th of March. And the Inter-District Primary Schools finals, Tuesday, 24th March. I'm urging you to go out and support our sportsmen and women at the school level. Thank you very much. So take your time.
Honorable members, if we are not ready for lunch, I am going to move for the suspension of this house. This will allow for the students, I'm going to give them about 10 minutes to interact with you, and we shall resume at 12:40. That is, if we are not going to take lunch right away. So, are we moving for lunch right away, or, yeah? Move the motion.
Speaker, I move that we suspend the House until 1:30.
Honorable members, the question is that the House do stand suspended until 1:30. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House is suspended.
Come to the end of the morning session of today's sitting of the House of Assembly. I am your anchor, Jacques Kingston Compton. So far, we've seen a presentation from the Minister for Health in the much talked about COVID-19 or coronavirus, and as it pertains to government's actions towards the spread of the virus in St. Lucia. And we've also had a very comprehensive PowerPoint presentation from the Minister for Education, Sustainable Development and Gender Relations as with regards to ICT in the education sector and government's proposed steps to smart classrooms, e-learning and instruction in coding and robotics. Later in the afternoon session, we will have a resolution of Parliament, and if I could only read the resolution very quickly before we go off air. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow the sum of US $20 million from the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China on Taiwan for the purpose of financing the St. Jude Hospital Phase 2 construction project. That is the resolution that will be discussed in the afternoon session of the House of Assembly, as well as one bill to be presented by the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and the Public Service. The bill is entitled the Alien Land Holding Licensing Bill, and we expect to witness only that first reading of the bill in the afternoon session. So please stay with us. We will take a short break and be back at 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. Please stay tuned to the National Television Network.